Sanbanan Dumlang, hello, it's Simply Spissa here, and welcome back to another episode of the podcast, Simply Do the Work. And so, before we get into it, I just want to, say if you're not yet subscribed, you're not following the podcast, please do so. Also, share the podcast, and also feel free to reach out to me at Simply Spissa. Instagram's where I'm most active, but also you can slide into my Twitter DMs and you can let me know your thoughts, comments, and even topic suggestions for future episodes. And so, even though I'm not quite sure what I'm going to title this episode yet, today I'll be talking about my messy relationship history, things that I wish I knew before getting into dating, and I guess you could say also the lessons that I've learned. And so hopefully for you guys listening, this will be a cautionary tale, right? If you have not experienced the things that I've experienced, so you can, prevent yourself from falling in the same situations. But also, if you have, know that you're not alone in this. And so before I get any further, I do want to preface this and say that I'll be speaking from my own experience, which is that experience of a non-binary / queer person, and those identities may or may not apply to you, and my experiences may or may not resemble yours. But I also know that my experiences aren't unique in the sense that, as I mentioned, you might relate to this. Also want to put a content / trigger warning for sexual trauma and assault. So let's just get right into it. So this pandemic, starting from last year, kind of forced me to really sit and reckon and confront my issues and traumas with regards to relationships. And I think taking it back to how I grew up. So yeah, if you've been following me and you know me, you're well aware of the fact that I grew up Christian, right? Very much in a Christian household. Went to church. I have plenty of check out previous episodes where I do talk at length about that. So I won't be dwelling too much on this, but I do want to mention that because I think it really laid the foundation for my ideas and views and how I internalized these things and interpreted them, because it did contribute to a lot of shame regarding my sexuality and also of guilt. And I think I internalized things, and my worldview was very much shaped by that. And the way in which I think it really affected me was in terms of my dating preferences, or let me say my experiences rather, with older men who would take advantage of me, who would manipulate, coerce, and at the time, I thought I had autonomy, right? I thought I was giving consent. But now I'm older, I'm actually, no man who's pushing 30 should be with a teenager. Right? And I think even now speaking about it, I do sense a residual shame about it. So I won't get into the details, but I'm just mentioning because I do think that in the LGBTQ plus community, we don't tend to talk about the issue of predation within the community, because there's this idea that it's going to give a bad rep. It's going to give homophobes and queerphobes ammunition, right, to use against us. But it's at the same time, we're allowing this to happen, right? Children should not be subjected to such thing. Children cannot consent. And I remember actually having a conversation with a friend about this, and when I told them, right, my experiences, how I would get into cars or get on people's motorbikes and they take me to their places, and his first response was what? Where were your parents during all of this? Where were the adults? And I was but I did sort of lie to them. But I do think that had the environment I was in, if it was truly a safe space, perhaps I could have been able to speak to them about it and be hey, so this happened. Because I actually remember there was this one person I was seeing, and I wanted to end it because I felt a lot of guilt and shame, right? And his response was, if you end it, I'm going to show up at your house, and then you must explain to your parents who I am and all of that. And in hindsight, I'm my parents probably first of all would have wanted that person to be arrested, as they, or just some action should have been taken because they were clearly the one in the wrong. But I think also the main thing I was going through my mind at that specific time was I cannot be outed, right? And also, there was some, I guess at the time I thought what I was gaining was enough, but let us move on because I'm still processing that, and we need to talk from scars and not wounds. I don't want to bleed all over you guys, but I think this, these happened when I was like literally a teenager, like still in high school. So these are like my formative years. And so when I came to varsity, right, I went to like the extreme end. And I think also because I thought, okay, you know what, I clearly don't meet the requirements, right? I'm no longer pure, won't be in a heterosexual relationship, so might as well do whatever I want. And I feel like the same patterns continued with regards to the coercion and the manipulation. But I thought, okay, but now I'm an adult, right? Now I'm older, I got this. And I think even just like when I think about the people I was attracted to, right, I was attracted to the older, more masculine type, which, now that I think about it, and that could probably be shaped by trauma, but it is what it is, right? But why I'm specifically mentioning how I tend to be attracted to the more masculine kind, because I remember another dilemma or issue that would come up in relationships is how these men would want me to act in a sort of housewifey type of way. Like I remember like one of my exes would insist that he wants me to cook for him, and I'm like, listen, I don't even cook for myself, why would I cook for you? I was like, maybe I can, like, we can go out for lunch. Like, no, I want you to cook. And the weird thing is we like literally like the same age, so I don't know why like his views are so backward. Like I'm used to hearing people's fathers talk like that, right? But essentially I've taken my experiences, right, and I'm still dealing with it. But I'm currently on a break from dating, and I'm currently on a celibacy path, because I do think I need to sort of, because I had a relationship that ended terribly where I was totally in the wrong. Like I won't get into the deal, but I was totally in the wrong, and I realized it's because of the traumas that I had, because I had been used and objectified. I couldn't believe that there was someone who could actually care about me, actually love me, actually want to be with me. And so currently single, I'm currently navigating a safe and healthy middle ground between the extreme oppressive homophobic, misogynistic purity culture, and also the degrading hookup culture. Because I personally, I'm not shaming anyone, right? I'm all about, anyone can do whatever they want with whoever they want as long as they're consenting adults. But I do think that there's a certain ethic that is sort of missing within hookup culture, right? There's a sort of I don't know how to explain this. Like I said, it's a certain ethic, right? I do think, for example, I've had experiences where I was just not comfortable. I think also just there was this in my mind, the idea of, okay, but this person drove me all the way to their place, I can't say no now. Or I think to myself, okay, look, I didn't spend 100 rand on an Uber just to get nothing. Or even if it's bad, like I even think about how I've had experiences which things were happening that I didn't want to happen, but I didn't know that I could articulate that. And I think it's because of just how my foundation, like I didn't have a comprehensive sex education that included discussions on consent and pleasure, right, and true autonomy. Because what I was told is that just don't have sex until you're married, and if you do, don't get someone pregnant, and it's just, where do you go from there? Like literally, where do you go from there? And so I think especially right now in the pandemic, I think the reason I also like the pandemic, this is gonna be like my final thought, forced me to like reckon with like my dating and all that. Cause I remember even just thinking to myself how I used to give people access to me, access to my body, who did not deserve it, right? And now it's just like, there's a pandemic, I'm not gonna catch COVID from Discreet 69 on Grindr. Like I've made that joke quite a few times, but really, honestly, that was one element that really forced me to like reckon and actually see how actually destructive the behavior was. Because I think a lot of us, we equate sexual liberation with promiscuity, which nothing wrong with like, I truly believe in sexual liberation, but I do think that we need to also differentiate the difference between pleasure and liberation. Because I also, and this is a conversation that Kim on For Harriet has a lot, is like how it seems as if what some people find as pleasure is taken as sexual liberation, which she watch her video on the WAP, Cardi B and Megan Thee Stallion's WAP. I think that's where she breaks down the idea really well. I mean, might not necessarily apply to like this context, but I do feel like it's quite relevant, because I think a lot of times when we do think of someone being sexually liberated, we think of someone who has sex whoever they want, whenever they want, and good for you if that's what you want. But I do think there is a room, the ability to say no, right? I think that is true liberation. To have control and true autonomy over your body, to not be violated, that is true autonomy. To have your boundaries respected, that is true liberation, I mean. And so dating is just complicated, and but as I said, sometimes we need to take a step back from dating. And I think that's something I do also want to say is you don't have to have everything figured out first before you get into dating, right? I think also we do sometimes fall in this trap of thinking, okay, no, I need to first sort out all my issues, see all the therapists, and then I'll get into a relationship. I think you can get into a relationship even while you're in the process of healing. And, you know, as long as you if you're with someone who truly respects your boundaries, who can understand, and also who you feel comfortable with, also, I'm not saying you need to share everything, like, on your first date, just share all your traumas, right? You can still, suss out the vibes. And once you feel like, okay, at me and this person, we could be built something, actually start opening up and let them know, hey, this is the things that I've been through. Because I also think like the last relationship that I was in that fell apart, like, if I was actually honest, because I remember he did try to have conversations with me, like, tell me, okay, but why do you I remember there was a point where I just told myself that, okay, he's moved on. And it was like, why did you think this way, right? And I just beat around the bush. But I think had I been honest to say, okay, it's because of these experiences and that. But I think sometimes we fall into the trap of believing all of these, these love gurus that say, no, you shouldn't be talking about your exes. I think just follow your intuition, and when necessary, seek professional help. And so whether you're single or not, we're constantly evolving as people. We're constantly changing. And hopefully this episode is a catalyst for you to work on yourself if you're not already doing that work. And if you are, motivate you to keep going on that journey. I wish you all the best. Hopefully, if you're in a relationship, hopefully y'all are good, y'all are kind to each other, y'all are loving to each other. I wish you nothing but the best. If you're single, I hope you're good. I hope also the loneliness doesn't drive you into toxic situations. I think that's another thing, loneliness and fear of being alone, that got me into some of these situations. But yeah, maybe I will, once I've properly dealt with these things, maybe I'll come back and have another discussion with you guys. Sorry, that was loud. I was closing my tablet while I was looking at my notes. But yeah, thank you so much for listening. Hope you enjoyed, and I will see you in the next one, or you'll hear from me, whether here on the podcast or on YouTube. Love you so much. Bye, guys.